Okay, time for another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the longevity of content, specifically the longevity of world content. Why? Well, I've seen a lot of people talking about Tanaan, and it would seem like loads have quickly soured on the whole thing, and today I'm going to try to work out why that happens and come up with ways to design around it and sort of fix it up. But let's face it, being bored of a bit of content is an eventuality when that bit of content is PvE and is supposed to last for 6 months. The first thing that really stuck with me though is that day 1 of Tanaan Jungle is basically the same as day 30 or even day 60 of Tanaan Jungle. You do progress in terms of rewards, but you don't really progress in terms of the actual content. And when I was really thinking about this video, I looked back to the past content patches, especially the ones that I enjoyed quite a bit, and you often had a situation where there was some form of progression to them, or at least some sort of content variation. So, in the Argent Tournament, you kind of progressed in rank, and as you did that, you not only got access to more rewards, but you also got access to more quests. I think this progression worked out quite well, and certainly as a player I enjoyed the idea of ranking up with the Argent Tournament, getting new ranks, access to the new horses to use, new mounts, and then quests which were more tailored to the actual kind of role that I played within the Argent Crusade. That was really awesome, though it's certainly true that the reward balancing, that was not great. It was a little bit too grindy, especially for those who wanted to really obtain all of the mounts. But still, day 1 of the Argent Tournament was different to day 5, it was different to day 30, there was a little bit of variation going on in there. Now, the Isle of Thunder also did a similar thing. You would start off with only a few types of quests unlocked, and as time went on, your server unlocked more and more and more of the island. For, say, the first month of the patch, there was generally something new every single week going on in the island, and I think that was great. As you unlocked more, you also unlocked new single-player scenarios, which sort of bridged the gap of the story from unlock to unlock, and I think that having the progression of the story be sort of tied to the wider progression of the zone, and the way that there was sort of scenarios bridging the gap, actually did a really good job of making it feel like an actual invasion was going on. You would do quests in an area, or you do your invasion scenario in an area, and boom, it would be unlocked for you to use. That was quite cool. The Garrison campaign is random, and it's got no real connection to the progression inside Tanaan, since, well, there is no progression inside Tanaan. The Garrison campaign just sort of feels random and throwaway in comparison. In patch 5.2, you did a scenario to unlock a part of the island, and then once that was done, you would have a new place to quest in, which might, end up giving you some more unique things, like, for an example, the Spirit Forge or a new world boss. Now that said, patch 5.2 did suffer from people getting too exalted and then just stopping doing the quests. I know that's something that Blizzard talked about at the time. Still, fully progressing, unlocked a new world boss for everyone, that was pretty cool, and just doing more things like that to keep the zone, I think, fresh, means that for a lot of people, there's something shiny to go back and check out in the zone, even a month after the patch actually comes out. The Molten Front also had a similar thing going on, and while I didn't really play that patch much, bar actually doing the Molten Front stuff, it was pretty much the only thing I played, and it was decently fun. What I did find to be interesting is actually a recent MMO champion thread, and it's why I'm bringing the Molten Front up. Somebody posted a comparison between the sizes of the Molten Front and Tanaan Jungle. Of course, Tanaan, far, far, far larger. And what I find interesting is that despite Tanaan being so much larger, I think there were times when the Molten Front felt a little bit more exciting, because as I progressed with the rep, I unlocked more stuff, and I think I interacted with the actual area of the Molten Front more because your progression was tied into what you actually did there. Tanaan doesn't really have that feeling, and I think it makes Tanaan feel perhaps a little bit static. Now 5.1 also illustrates something useful. However, in 5.1, the dailies, for me anyway, they got old really quick, if I'm honest. And though I suppose unlike the other patches on this list, patch 5.1 was a minor non-raid patch, and it didn't really add a new landmass or anything like that. What I do think worked well here, though, is how the daily quests would sort of progressively unlock more story content. This is quite unlike the Garrison campaign. A, the Garrison campaign is quite terrible in terms of the content, in my personal opinion. B, the Garrison campaign in terms of time is tiny. And C, it's not something that you earn. In patch 5.1, you earned those story quest lines, which actually made them feel like a bit of a reward. In patch 6.2, they're just sort of given to you without any real effort, and they're not that good anyway, so the Garrison campaign just doesn't feel like a reward, and I think that's a bit of a pity. So how do we apply all of this stuff to Tanaan Jungle? Well, I would have it so that we actually invade Tanaan properly. Right now, we hop on a boat, we pick up 2 objectives, we click on a pile of bombs, we click on a flagpole, and boom! That's it! Invasion of Tanaan is complete. And you just have access to the whole zone with a bunch of Apexis missions, and that's it. It will not change over any amount of time, it's static. I think it would have been really cool if the content of Tanaan was unlocked as we fought our way through the zone. The opening of the patch could have done exactly what the end of the patch 6.0 Garrison campaign alluded to, in which we would storm the gates of Tanaan in a big sort of epic scenario, maybe it would involve other people as well, something like that, and we would secure footholds in the western part of the zone, and then from that point, we would do quests for the Hand of the Prophet faction. Now, I suppose maybe they could be Apexis quests, but there would be some more unique quests and things to go along with it. Progression on a faction-wide basis or a personal basis would probably work. Faction-wide is a little bit nicer in terms of the community feel. You feel like you're all sort of working towards a goal. However, it being on a personal basis does make the unlocking of stuff feel like a reward that you personally have earned. But anyway, as more of the zone unlocks, well, it would sort of change to reflect whatever plot stuff had happened in the various sort of scenarios that would cover your faction shindigs. And what that essentially means is you would do a bunch of quests, and after a certain amount of maybe reputation or server-wide progression, the next stage of Tanaan would be unlocked. And to actually unlock the next part of Tanaan, or, you know, for you to be able to see it on your character, you would have to do a story scenario which would take you through what's actually going on. And here's an example. I think it would be pretty cool if the Temple of Shinar would have started out being like a Draenei holdout, where you maybe had a few quests to help out the locals, but then, once you actually progressed enough, and the big scenario happened which moved Tanaan onto the next step of its story, maybe Gul'dan could have done something where you could have like blasted the shit out of the place, and turned it into somewhere where we actually had to fight. I think that would be really cool, and actually really fun in terms of progression. Back in 5.2, they had a smaller team, and 5.2 actually came out really quickly after 5.0 and 5.1. If resources really are the, limiting factor in doing something like this, then there's just something terribly wrong at Blizzard. I mean, sure, working on the next expansion earlier than normal is nice, but if that means that all mid-expansion content feels neutered, then I don't think it's healthy for the game. So overall, I think that much of this feeling of apathy that people are getting with Tanaan could have been avoided by having a zone that your faction progresses through, unlocking new hubs and new story content along the way. It worked really well in the past, and clearly the current model just isn't really inspiring people that much. However, there are good points of the current model, right? You've got your rare mobs, they're great, keep them going. You've got lots of little sort of cool vignettes and scenarios going on. You've got treasures as well, so all that stuff is good in the current system, and that should be kept. Now, one thing that I would change is that I would have the content from parts of the zone be a bit mixed up as you progress. So when your faction progresses to the next stage of Tanaan Jungle, let's just say a big plot thing happens, and I would like that plot thing to reflect the areas of the zone not only that you're going into, but the ones that you were previously in. So similar to what I said about the Temple of Shinar like a minute or two ago, what I love about that is that it's having your storytelling actually affect the world, and I think that's a really, really powerful storytelling device, because as Blizzard often says, the real character of the world of Warcraft is the world of Warcraft, and doing interesting things with what goes on in the world that, is really impacted by the actual story and plot line. I just think that's a really powerful way to just make it feel like an immersive place in which things are happening. So that's roughly what I think, and I honestly think that if they were to do something similar to 5.2, but also incorporate the sort of changes to older parts of the zone that I mentioned here, and if they were also to incorporate all of the cool little mini events and treasures and rares that they've got going on in the Timeless Isle and Tanaan, I think that would make just a single, large, very polished, and extremely fun and interesting thing in the game. Oh, and also the reputations. Come on, guys, give us some unique quests with those reps so that we actually know who the Saber Stalkers are, so that we actually learn a bit more about the Order of the Awakened. I don't think the Garrison campaign is any replacement for that stuff, because the Garrison campaign is given to you. It's not earned by actually doing the reps. So yeah, overall, that's what I think. Something like Tanaan could have been awesome, could have been amazing. Right now, I think it's a little bit meh. It's actually very meh, but hey, that's what we've got to deal with, and hopefully if they do Farallon will be better, and hopefully stuff in the future expansion will learn the lessons of both Warlords of Draenor and Mists of Pandaria. Anyway, that's been it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and down in the comments, let me know what sort of stuff you would like to see in a big bit of sort of new patch content like Tanaan Jungle. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.